Irwin Allen produced several science fiction television series. This week, we're going to look at the shortest running show he did, only 30 episodes. The Time Tunnel is an American color science fiction television series written around a theme of time travel adventure starring James Darren and Robert Colbert. The show was creator-producer Irwin Allen's third science fiction television series and was released by 20th Century Fox Television and broadcast on ABC. In fact, all of Irwin Allen's shows, except for Lost in Space, were broadcast on ABC. Lost in Space was broadcast on CBS. A history of the series by Martin Grams, Jr. was published in 2012. Project Tic-Tock is a top-secret U.S. government effort to build an experimental time machine, known as the Time Tunnel due to its appearance as an elliptical passageway.
Wherever he and Doug are now, at least they're together.
But where? We couldn't begin to guess.
The base for Project Tic-Tock is a huge, hidden underground complex in Arizona, 800 floors deep and employing more than 12,000 specialized personnel. The directors of the project are Dr. Douglas Phillips, played by Robert Colbert, Dr. Anthony Newman, played by James Darren, and Lieutenant General Haywood Kirk, played by Whit Bissell. The specialists assisting them are Dr. Raymond Swain, played John Zaremba, a foremost expert in electronics, and Dr. Ian McGregor, played by Lee Merriweather, an electrobiologist supervising the unit that determines how much force and heat a time traveler is able to withstand.
He acted a lot to little sticks with little round circles and faces drawn on them. One would be Jimmy and one would be Bob.
The series is set in 1968, 2 years into the future from the actual broadcast season, 1966 to 1967. Tony and Doug become participants in past events such as the sinking of the Titanic, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the eruption of Krakatoa, Custer's last stand, and the Battle of the Alamo, among others. General Kirk, Ray, and in the control room are able to locate them in time and space, observe them, occasionally communicate with them through voice contact, and send help. The series was abruptly canceled in the summer of 1967 by ABC, before they were able to film the episode in which Tony and Doug are safely returned to the Time Tunnel complex. According to the plot, time travel is facilitated by time being portrayed as a static continuum, accessible at any point through the time tunnel as a corridor spanning its infinite reaches. When Senator Clark sees an image of the Titanic on the image screen in the course of episode 1, he is told by Dr. Swain that he is seeing the living past, and Althea Hall is told by Tony Newman that the past and the future are the same. The Time Tunnel is also a portal connecting the Time Tunnel complex with the same time periods in which Doug and Tony are located. Other people can also be relocated by the Time Tunnel from their time to another time, as Machiavelli is switched from his own time to the time of the Gettysburg Campaign of 1863. Bringing people to the present happens often in the series, but the only occasion in which Tony and Doug return to their own time occurs in Merlin the Magician.
Stop! It was a little late.
I was detained.
When the Great Wizard uses magic to bring them home in suspended animation so he can instruct them to perform a mission for him. The production used sets, stock footage, and props left over from the large number of period dramas made by the 20th Century Fox Film Company. Even black and white shots purporting to show the Titanic sinking were tinted for use in this color production. Only a few actors were costumed for a given episode, interspersed with cuts of great masses of people similarly dressed from original features. Only one set was constructed for the show, that of the Time Tunnel main control room. For the pilot episode, a large control room set was built, and a longer time tunnel was created using optical matte shots. After the pilot episode, location changes occurred for the production of the series. Colbert and Darren shot their scenes in another studio, on the 20th Century Fox backlit, or on location, while those who portrayed the time tunnel personnel filmed all their scenes on a revised and smaller time tunnel control room set.
Just tell me one thing. Has anybody ever done this before?
Irwin Allen made an attempt to revive the show in 1976 with The Time Travelers. The teleplay was credited to Jackson Gillis from a story by Rod Serling. In 2002, Fox showed interest in remaking this series. A pilot was produced by 20th Century Fox Television and Regency Television in association with Irwin Allen Properties.
First commandment, we don't take anything or do anything for personal reasons. If you do, it's considered treason. One misstep back there, and our present changes forever.
Kevin Burns and John Jashney were executive producers. The series was not ordered by Fox so as to make room in its schedule for Joss Whedon's Firefly. There are some notable differences between the series world and the real world. Traffic lights use red for go and green for stop while yellow retains its meaning. There are 49 states in the United States. The title sequence shows New Jersey disappearing and the territory being divided between New York and Pennsylvania. The title sequence shows the Soviet Union winning the race to the moon as the American flag dissolves into the Soviet flag. The New York Yankees are now the Boston Yankees. The series won an Emmy Award in 1967 for individual achievements in cinematography. The award went to L.B. Bill Abbott for his photographic special effects. Although the time tunnel was scheduled on Fridays, often considered the Friday night death slot for TV programs, the ratings for the series were solid. ABC pointed to the time tunnel as one of the few successes in a disastrous schedule. A series titled The Legend of Custer was lobbied to drop the time tunnel in favor of Custer. The network headquarters gave green light for Custer, and the time tunnel was canceled. The Legend of Custer was itself canceled after airing 17 low-rated episodes, skewered by critics and performed worse than the time tunnel. There were 2 issues put out by Gold Key Comics. These were reprinted by Hermes Press in 2012. Issue number 1, The Time Tunnel, The Assassins, April 14, 1865. Abraham Lincoln gets a second chance. In The Lion or the Volcano, Doug and Tony travel to Pompeii, August 24, 79 AD. In Mars Countdown 1980, Doug and Tony have a space adventure journey to Mars. Issue number 2, In the Time Tunnel, The Conqueror's D-Day 1944. The Nazis get a second chance, this time with weapons from the future. In The Captives, June 25, 1876, Mid-America, Custer gets a second chance. Previewed for fans along with Star Trek at the 1966 World Science Fiction Convention in Cleveland ahead of its television premiere. Typically of series of the time, including Star Trek, language is no barrier to them. Despite arriving in times and places where the only languages spoken would have included French, German, Spanish, Latin, or Hebrew. Either the time tunnel has a universal translator built into it, or it's simply regarded as a necessary logical blind spot to overlook. The first fifth of the series dances around this problem by having Doug and Tony only interact with English-speaking people. The first time the oddity arises is in Revenge of the Gods, when Bronze Age Greek people appear to be speaking English. In Mutiny at 10,000 Feet, Lee Meriwether and John Zaremba appear and share a scene before they were cast in this series. On the heels of the cancellation of pioneering shows like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, 1966 was a sci-fi fantasy bonanza for television. Besides The Time Tunnel, other shows premiering in 1966 were Star Trek, Batman, The Green Hornet, Ultraman, It's About Time, Space Ghost, and more. The premise of the show, despite its higher technology and production values, was not entirely original. In the 1950s, during the earliest days of space opera television, a hokey series called Captain ZRO provided the exact same concept, an advanced Earth using a time machine to go back into history and manipulate the outcome for the benefit of mankind, including the tracking and monitoring of the events back in the laboratory. Due to the cancellation of the series after 1 season, Doug and Tony never returned home. In the DVD interview, Robert Colbert said that had the show been renewed for another season, Irwin Allen was planning to have the time tunnel finally bring them home, and the new scripts would have them going into the time tunnel each week to fix wrongs that happened in history, much like Quantum Leap.
My brother was my stuntman. Started out, Paul Stater was my stuntman. My brother looked so much like me, even if his voice was exactly like mine. If I'd have been sick one day, I think he could have been Doug Phillips.
That was our show for this week. Irwin Allen said that this was his personal favorite of all his shows. What about you? What was your favorite Irwin Allen TV series? Did you like The Time Tunnel? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'd also be honored if you subscribe to my channel, click the bell to stay informed, and, until next time, this is Axel for Kevin Given saying live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.